to eat food, play golf, be at his property, and stand and applaud. Yeah, this is definitely a moment where they have to be subservient to him. I agree.
That's right. And here he goes, the president.
I want to thank you all and congratulate. I mean, this is a very big congratulations to our reelected House Republican majority on your largest popular vote. Did you know that since 1928? That's a long time, Mike, right? That's a long time. But I especially want to thank our outstanding leadership team. Speaker Mike Johnson, we all know so well. He's doing great. Majority Leader Steve Scalise, who's gone through so much. And he looks better today than he did 10 years ago. I don't know what's going on. Thank you very much, Steve. You look great. Majority Whip Tom Emmer. Tom, thank you. Great job. And House Conference Chair Lisa McClain. Lisa, thank you very much. Great job. Thanks as well to all of the incredible House members and staff for your tireless work on behalf of our country, along with Congressional Institute CEO Kelly Strickland. Thank you very much. Thank you. Kelly, thank you very much. So we have Kellyanne Conway. Nobody knows Kellyanne. Does anybody know? Where's Kellyanne? She's around. What? She's so good. She's a good person, too. She's a good person, too. And the mayor of Hialeah, I love this guy because he said, sir, we want to name a major boulevard after you. And he did it. Anybody that names a boulevard after me, I like him a lot. Esteban Bovo and Hialeah, mayor of Hialeah, thank you, wherever you may be. Esteban, where are you? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Great honor, actually. A lot of people come back from Hialeah. They say, they just named a road after you. I said, that's okay. It's a beginning, right? It's a start. With the help of everyone in this room, we've just won the most epic, consequential political victory in American history, according to a lot. One of the major fake newspapers, so in this case it's not fake news, let's say, but they said it's the most consequential election victory in the last 129 years. I'm trying to figure out what that means, 120. Who was there 129 years ago? But it was a great one. At the presidential level, we won the popular vote for the first time of any Republican in decades. We swept all 7 swing states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada by very, very big margins, record-setting. And for the first time ever, all 50 states, did you know this? Shifted toward the Republican Party. We've never had that before. Nobody has, actually. It's never happened before. That's pretty good. You must be doing a good job, fellas. We won the largest number of African-American voters in Republican history, including 39% of black men, a record by a lot. So that's really nice. Thank you. And we won more Hispanic-American votes than any Republican ever. It's never won any, not even close. Look at that, Hispanic-American. We made historic strides with youth, men, women, urban, suburban, and rural voters. And in a political earthquake, yeah, sit down, just enjoy it. What the hell, we're going to be here for a little while. But in a political earthquake, we won a wave of support from labor unions, including massive numbers of auto workers, which gave us Michigan as an example. Think of that. We won Michigan easily, and we did tremendous with the auto workers. And an overwhelming majority of the rank-and-file membership of the Teamsters. The Teamsters were great. They showed up in droves, and we won them by a lot. Together, we're forging a new political majority that's shattering and replacing Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal coalition, which dominated American politics for over 100 years. That's what we're doing. And what Mike said before, common sense. It is a little bit of common sense. Maybe it's a lot of common sense. Under our leadership, the Republican Party has become the proud voice of hardworking American citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. We've become the party of the American dream and wealth creation for everyone, not just the rich. If we do our job over the next 21 months, not only will House Republicans be reelected and expand our majority in 2026, we will cement a national governing coalition that will preserve American freedom for generations to come. There has never been anything like what's happened in politics in the last few years. Never been anything like it. Everybody, people of religion, everybody seems to be with us. I don't know how anybody could even vote for the other side. In many cases, they don't, but they do get credit for it. You'll have to think about that. I've raised a lot of money for the next race that I assume I can't use for myself, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't know. I think I'm not allowed to run again. I'm not sure. Am I allowed to run again? Mike, I better not get you involved in that argument. No, we raised a lot of money, a tremendous amount, and our teletown halls are something that's very special that nobody else is able to even contemplate using. We've gotten a lot of people elected with those teletown halls. We have 25, 30,000 people on just in a congressional area, and they win easy. It works for Elvis, the Beatles, and it doesn't work for anyone else, but it works for Trump. And we would have tremendous crowds on those calls, and I think I'll bet we got 35, 40 people elected because of the town halls. But I did say to them, and I said, this is the person that sort of has the rights to it, and he happens to be a great Republican. I said, this is the greatest invention. This thing is going to make a fortune. He said, no, it's not that good, actually, because it only works for you. He said, actually, sir, it only works for you because somebody else they're not picking up, so I'm honored to have that privilege, and I used it carefully, but we've done a lot of the teletown halls for people, and I don't think we've ever lost one, right? It's hard to lose one, even if you only get 5,000 or 6,000 people on a congressional race. But we've done them for states, we've done them for governors, and we've done them for senators. And we did a couple countrywide. I did a couple for myself countrywide. They're absolutely amazing. And we got the message out through that and lots of other means. We even got it out through TikTok. Has anyone ever heard of TikTok? I have a little bias toward TikTok right now, I have to tell you. So we won youth by the largest margin. No Republican, we generally don't win youth. We won by 36 points. Can you imagine that? And I think TikTok had something to do. So, pardon me if I'm a little bit, I became a little bit jaded toward TikTok, but we'll see what happens. We're going to have a lot of people bidding on it. And if we can save all that voice and all the jobs, and China won't be involved. You don't want China involved, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But over the past 7 days, my administration has been moving with urgency and historic speed to reverse every single disaster of the Biden administration. By the way, the guy was a disaster, okay? We want to be nice. And he's probably not listening right now because it's a little late. But, I don't want him to listen. I don't want to say it. I feel badly. I was, making the inauguration speech, and I'm saying all the bad things. And he's sitting like right here. I'm saying they were a horrible administration. They didn't know what they were doing. They were grossly incompetent. I got a guy sitting right next to me. It's not that easy to do, even though he didn't understand what I was saying. He really did. And deliver on the mandate that we've been given by the American people. In a single week, I've taken over 350 executive actions. We've signed 300, and who ever heard of that one? And as I said in my inaugural address, the American decline is over. It's over. The golden age of America has officially begun, and I think that's a good thing for us to talk about, the golden age and the American dream. I think it's a good thing because people haven't been talking that way for a long period of time. On day one, I directed every member of my cabinet to marshal all powers at their disposal to defeat inflation and bring down the cost of daily life, and we're going to do that. You're going to see it starting to happen when we get going with the energy. The energy is going to, it brought everything up, and it's going to bring everything down. I imposed a federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, a foreign aid freeze. A foreign aid freeze, isn't that nice? We get tired of giving massive amounts of money to countries that hate us, don't we? And I created the new Department of Government Efficiency, and I think it's going to be very meaningful. I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New Scam, one of the great scams in history. Actually, isn't it 12 years up? They gave us 12 years to live, right? I think that we passed it, right? We're still around. Can you believe it? The person that really came up with it is a person that never even took a course on the environment, was a poor student, not a good student, didn't understand a lot, and she came up with this idea, and everybody all of a sudden started going, and then mainstream, important Democrat leaders were starting, they got sucked into it, And we've spent trillions of dollars on just like throwing it out the window. You could throw it out the window. You would have been better off. I withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord, and I canceled. It was so one-sided. You know, we had obligations, but Russia didn't, China didn't, other countries didn't. We paid everything. We're going to lose $1 trillion over a short period of time on that. And we had to do everything. They didn't have to do anything. It was ridiculous. And I canceled the insane and very costly electric vehicle mandate. So you can buy a car of your choice. If you like gasoline, go have it. And if you like hybrids are doing well. You can have it, or you can buy an electric car. We like electric. We like everything, but you have to have a right to buy everything. I withdrew from the World Health Organization, where we paid $500 million a year, and China paid just $39 million a year, despite a much larger population. How about that? So we're paying $500 million a year. China's paying $39 million a year. They have 1.4 billion people. We have, nobody knows what we have. So many people came across the border. Nobody has any idea. I used to say like 325, but we really don't know. But we're going to know soon. We're going to know. And I tell you, our people are doing a fun. Tom Homan and his staff are doing an incredible job getting the bad ones out. I declared a national energy emergency to unlock the liquid gold that's right under our feet, because we will drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill. It's going to bring down prices, and your energy costs are going to go way down, and that'll happen, I think, relatively quickly. I'm going to give fast environmental approval for anybody building a plant for electric generation, and anybody that invests more than $1 billion will get super rapid approval. Not that they have to wait for 9 years, 14 years, like I approved LNG plants in Louisiana. They were waiting for so many years. It wasn't Louisiana's fault. It was some people, they just wouldn't get them done. You've got a snail here, a tiny tree here, and I got it done in a matter of a few days. I actually got it done. It took them 14 years. I got it done in about 3 days. The people, as we called them, I'll never forget, I called them and I said, congratulations, you got your permit. What? They were so shell-shocked. They didn't know what the hell was happening. They're going to spend, and they spent about $16 billion on each plant, and they've been roaring since then. But we got them done in a matter of a few days. Over the past week, we've begun the largest deregulation campaign in history, far exceeding even the record-setting efforts in my first term. That was record-setting deregulation, and that was just as big as tax cuts as far as business and jobs were concerned, I'll tell you. I actually asked, you know, it's interesting because I actually asked some of the biggest businessmen in the country, I said, let me ask you, would you, if you had the choice between the big tax cuts, you know, we cut it from 40% to 21%. We're going to cut it further, but we cut it down to 20. Everybody said that would be impossible. The people on the stage helped us with that one a lot. But I said, if you had your choice of that or the big deregulation cuts, what would you take? These are the guys that run the big companies, the big oil companies, the big companies of every kind. I said, would you take the big tax cut or the big cut in regulations? And I've never had anybody said they'll take the tax cut. They took the regulation cut. I'll bet I asked that question 100 times to 100 of the biggest people. They always, Tom, they always said, sir, we'll take the regulation cut. You opened us up. You let us create all these jobs that we've all seen happen. So it was even bigger than the big tax cut. I also signed an order to end the weaponization of our government against the American people and investigate all abuses of power. And I stopped government censorship once and for all, and we brought back free speech to America. That's what happened. We're going to bring it back. Because we didn't have free speech. We didn't have free speech. I mean, I was investigated more than any human being in history. Alphonse Capone was a baby. Now, this was a serious killer, Scarface. You've all heard of Scarface.
All right, well, if you are familiar with President Trump's speeches on the campaign trail, his rallies in and out of office, you've heard about Alphonse Capone and other things. But there he is in Miami speaking to the members, the Republican members of the House of Representatives. They have all gathered for a strategy session. He's ticking through some of what he believes are his main accomplishments already in office. And so let's bring in ABC News' Jay O'Brien live there in Miami. Jay, you've certainly heard plenty of this, but I want to look forward a little bit, and we will continue to monitor this address. what substantively are members expecting to hear from President Trump, in addition to his pride in his election and the policies that he's already put in place that he's talking about?
Well, from the members I've talked to, Terry, really, they're looking for a game plan. They're looking for President Trump to call the play as to how the House Republican Conference and also Senate Republicans are going to try to push forward his ambitious legislative agenda. We've been talking over the course of the evening as to the two options that congressional Republicans have. They can put it all in one bill, one big, quote-unquote, beautiful bill, as House Republican leadership and President Trump have said in the past. They could separate it into two pieces of legislation, which is the favored move of Senate Republicans. This is legislation that would pack in every single pretty much campaign promise that Donald Trump made on the trail, including tax cuts, including a change of energy policy. Theoretically, it would also aim to fund the government, because the government has to be funded by mid-March. Also, Congress has to raise the debt ceiling by spring, if not early summer, and they would need, in theory, Democrats to go along with at least the debt ceiling component of that, because Republicans have a built-in caucus in their own party, the further right part of that party, who have never voted to raise a debt ceiling and have sworn to never vote to raise a debt ceiling. So how does Mike Johnson raise the debt ceiling without Democratic votes? And does he work that into Donald Trump's legislative agenda? And if that happens, would that turn off Democrats? All of this is what's on the top of mind for Mike Johnson and congressional Republicans during this retreat at this hour. And a lot of them are looking for Donald Trump to give them some guidance and call the play. And so far in these remarks, not much guidance from the president as of yet.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. He'll get there for sure. You know, he weaves is the way he talks about how he speaks. Let's bring in our ABC News contributor and former Republican congressman for New York, John Katko. So, John, you've attended these House member conferences, these retreats, to kind of get together and, as Jay O'Brien says, call the play of the legislative agenda here. You know, Donald Trump flying high right now, clearly enjoying his first day's second term in office, doing a lot, trying to get a lot done. How do you think that this is going to work for him, given the rather daunting agenda that he's outlined and what Jay O'Brien has just talked about, that debt ceiling limit that he's going to need Democratic votes for? These could be the best days of the Trump presidency. One hopes not. We always hope for the country to succeed, but it's hard going forward.
Yeah, it is. And a couple of things from this speech that kind of struck me. Number one is he's got to get past the campaign, and he's still having a hard time doing that. He's still in that transition phase, at least in his mind. But he's got the first 100 days, like I always say, are by far the most important for a campaign. And he's got to convince a significant section of the Republican Party about this bill, this great, big, beautiful bill, because it's going to increase the debt. And there's not enough pay-fors on earth to pay for everything he wants to get done. So the thing I want to know is, what, if anything, is he willing to cut from his wish list? You can't cut taxes to the bone without having pay-fors. And the cold, hard reality is about 60% of the budget is entitlements, which can't be touched. So it's going to be tough. And it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out.
Yeah, that's a great point, John. Let me bring it to ABC News contributor, Sirius XM radio host Mike Muse, which is that Trump is not like to cut. He likes to toss out the goodies, right? Tax cuts and spending and American greatness. He's got a very ambitious agenda. Governing's harder than that.
It absolutely is. I actually take a different tact than what John Katko just did about this campaign sum speech. I think what he's doing is kind of level setting and reminding Americans exactly why he is moving with the speed that he is, with over 300 executive orders that he mentioned. He said that he built a case of why he has built the biggest political majority, really aiming at the demographics that he won, and particularly the unions, which I found really interesting as he began to talk about deregulations. And when he began to talk about energy, that goes straight into the question of unions, right, in terms of job protection, and really getting into the American first agenda of his freezing foreign aid. I thought was an interesting note about the goodies that you're mentioning, Terry, was the idea of choice between electric vehicles and traditional gas emission vehicles. On my radio show, I had callers call up and ask, would they want to convert over to electric vehicles? A lot of them said no. They really preferred the gas. Some of them said it's an aphrodisiac for them. And So I think he's really getting to choice, really giving why he won in the first place. And as you said, Terry, giving Americans the goodies. It was all outlined in this speech.
That's right, and it is hard. ABC News contributor and editor at the National Review, Ramesh Ponnuru, is also with us. And Ramesh, I've asked this before, I think of you, but I look at these members, House Republican members, they came up in a very different Republican Party. This is now, the Republican Party is an expression, really, of Donald Trump's personal vision of American greatness and American destiny and American policy.
Well, you know, a lot of them did come up in Trump's party, especially the newer members. The problem is if they are waiting for, as one of your earlier guests said, for the president to call the play, there's no play that can be called that is going to solve the fundamental problem that they've got an extremely tight margin in the House. And then second, Trump's never done it before. If you look at the first 2 years of his first term, he had the House and he had the Senate, but he let their legislative leaders decide what they were going to promote, in what order, and make the fundamental decisions about what was in the legislation, what wasn't. So this is going to be asking for Trump to do something he's never done before, hasn't shown any great facility for, with this extremely ambitious agenda. We could, as you said earlier, be running out of the sort of triumphant, aggressive phase of this presidency into a period where he's got to make the legislative trains work, and it's going to be much harder than Republicans are letting on.
Yeah, that's so interesting, Ramesh. And let's bring in Democratic strategist Megan Hayes on that point that, you know, there are some presidents who are master legislators, right? Famously, Lyndon Johnson. Donald Trump, I think, is wary of that. It can be a viper's nest. You get blamed at the end of the day if things don't work. And I think he likes to be the guy who delivers the goodies. But presidency requires it, and the Republicans are looking for some kind of strategy from the president.
Yeah, I think that's clear. I think, I don't think that he understands that governing is actually harder than campaigning. As you can see in this speech, it's a litany of things that he wants to do or trying to do by executive order, some of which illegal and being challenged in court already. And I think that you're 100% right that the last time he mandated that they do something with the debt ceiling, the Republicans weren't able to get it done with the compromise. So it would behoove Donald Trump, I think, to sit back and let the Congress dictate how they are going to get this bill done for him and what they're going to put in it and what they're able to compromise with the Democrats. And he should not be involved. He should lay out the priorities and let them figure out how to get passed. Also, the Congress is the ones that are going to have to pay the price here if something goes wrong with the midterm election. So Donald Trump would be smart to step back. I don't know if that's in his nature in the second term.
Yeah, that's a great point, too. So he is an improvisational president, though. He seizes on the moment to look for advantage, and he's been a master at it. So Jay, Mike, John, Megan, and Ramesh, thank you very much. And thank you for streaming with us. I'm Terry Moran. Follow ABC News Live on Instagram, on TikTok, as long as it exists, Facebook, and more. Coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to catch ABC News Live Prime with Linsey Davis for the day's biggest stories and the impact they have on you. The news never stops, neither do we. Keep it right here on ABC News Live.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
An operation to capture ISIS fighters.
Is this our Combat Operations Center?
We're approaching the gate now. Militants came in from 4 or 5 different directions. Operational nuclear reactor. So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag, there's not a tear in it.
Not a tear in it.
How important is this label right here, Made in the USA? Look at your smile. You're proud of this.
I love this.
Great work.
Hi.
Where are you? Where are you?
Appreciate you.
Thank you, David. Good to meet you. Ismail? David.
David.
Yes. I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Supernatural. Are you ready for some football?
All Super Bowl week long, Good Morning America is in New Orleans.
GMA at the Super Bowl. Sounds pretty good.
From exclusive access to the hottest parties, to the best game day food, to football fashion for women, and all the puppies. Plus, Drew Brees, Stephen A. Smith, and of course, Gronk.
It's going to be super.
And get this, you could win tickets to the big game.
Let's do this, people.
Starting next Monday morning.
GMA at the Super Bowl.
Hey, good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
You don't just see it, you feel it.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in too.
I am in.
I'm in.
I'm in too.
I'll be here.
We have 96 hours to build a house for a deserving family.
Come on, guys, it's moving day. Let's go. It can't be real.
Extreme Makeover Home Edition, Thursday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
What's good to watch? Read? Where can I get a great deal on what I'm just dying to buy? Oh, it's all right here. GMA Life. All the exclusive and buzziest celebrity good stuff. Deals and steals with amazing savings and the coolest lifestyle tips from Good Morning America.
I love that so much.
GMA Life. Streaming weekends on ABC News Live. Your weekend just got a little better with GMA Life.
The Kardashians are here!
What have you been up to?
What haven't we been up to?
We're going to Vegas.
This is my 40th birthday.
Kim and Chloe take India.
That Monday.
I feel like Cinderella at the ball.
Here, I make a hole his closet. You must really like him.
Such a stage mom. Where do you think she learned it?
I'm Kris Jenner.
Oh my God, I'm Kris Jenner.
Hello, I'm Terry Moran in Washington, and right now on ABC News Live, a busy day for the second week of the new Trump administration. House Republicans are at the president's own Miami Doral resort for a closed-door retreat to hash out his agenda and talk policy. And all this comes as the U.S. and Colombia come to an agreement after the nation's two presidents clashed bitterly over migrants and tariffs on social media. Plus, the White House is following through on its immigration crackdown promise, with nearly 1,000 ICE arrests reported yesterday. What the president's plan means for migrants and for border security. And the latest on the fragile ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas as thousands of Palestinians are making their way back into northern Gaza. What we know about the humanitarian crisis on the ground there as those who have been displaced by war try to rebuild. But we do begin with the president kicking off the second week of his second term in Florida. House Republicans are there for a three-day retreat at Trump's Doral Golf Resort in Miami. And while there, lawmakers are expected to touch on the White House's border, energy, and tax plans, trying to hammer out all that out. Trump spoke a while ago, just a little bit ago, at the 2025 House Republican Members Conference dinner, and he energized his party, and he touted his election victory.
But over the past 7 days, my administration has been moving with urgency and historic speed to reverse every single disaster of the Biden administration. And as I said in my inaugural address, the American decline is over. It's over. The golden age of America has officially begun.
Okay, that's the president speaking today in Florida. And this multi-day strategy session that the Republicans down there are holding, it's thought to be pivotal to pushing the president's agenda forward. How? That's the big question. Meantime, the U.S. and Colombia have reached a deal over deportation flights and tariffs after a tense standoff that could have raised prices on imports to the U.S., like coffee and fresh flowers that come from Colombia. President Trump implemented a 25% tariff on Colombian imports after Colombia's president refused to accept 2 deportation flights from the U.S. and defied Trump publicly on social media. Well, he later backed off of his threats, and now Colombia is sending a representative to meet with Trump officials. But the White House says tariffs are still on the table if the agreement tentatively reached over the weekend was not honored. So let's bring in ABC News White House correspondent Marilyn S. Parks and ABC News' Jay O'Brien from Miami, where that retreat is happening. Jay, President Trump, what stood out to you? What is standing out to you about the president's remarks?
Yeah, Terry, one of the things I've heard repeatedly from House Republicans is they do want an answer from President Trump on exactly how he wants that legislative package to be put together. They want him to essentially call the play, because this is a laundry list of Donald Trump's campaign promises from the trail: tax cuts, energy policy, but also in there a looming government shutdown deadline in mid-March. Congress also has to raise the debt ceiling by spring, if not early summer. They would likely need Democratic votes to do that, because there's this contingent of far-right Republicans, we've seen them time and time again, who do not want to vote for any kind of raising of the debt ceiling. And so what Republicans want from President Trump is they want him to give them some kind of playbook as to how they navigate that, how they raise the debt ceiling with those Democratic votes, but also pass his ambitious legislative agenda. Does he want it all put into one, quote-unquote, big, beautiful bill, as House Republican leadership and Donald Trump have said in the past? Is he okay with the Senate's plan, which is to break it up into two different bills? So far, we've seen House Republican leadership obviously favor and put forward that one bill approach, trying to put all of Donald Trump's promises into one piece of legislation, get it through a deeply divided House with a slim Republican majority of just a few seats in that chamber, and try to pass it through the Senate. But one of the things we haven't heard from Donald Trump in these remarks is exactly what he wants done, and that seems to be calculated. He's ceding control of this, at least right now, to Mike Johnson, for it to be Mike Johnson's job to call the play and really carry the water, and it to be on Mike Johnson to get all this through Congress, Terry.
Right. Well, thank you, Jay. Mike Johnson is the legislator, Mary Alice. Donald Trump is not. Who was it? It was, I guess it was Otto von Bismarck, the German chancellor, who said you should never watch two things being made: sausage and legislation. And it does feel like that's a little bit of Trump's approach. He doesn't really want to get his hands in that mess.
Until he does. I mean, we've seen in the past when Trump weighs in at the 11th hour. I think a lot of people in Washington are worried about Speaker Johnson's ability to get this done when they have to guess at what Trump may or may not back. I mean, we have seen multiple times when Republicans have thought they had a deal. I'm thinking about before the holiday when it wasn't even Trump that blew up a deal. It was Elon Musk that blew up a deal. So this is really tricky work for Speaker Johnson to not only bring a conference together, deal with those slim margins Jay was talking about, work on a legislative agenda, keep the government funded, but anticipate what Trump may or may not like in the end. Tricky work going forward. And it was notable, though, that Trump also wants a lot of praise for the work he's just been able to do by executive order. Blowing past the fact that some of these executive orders have already been stopped in the courts, others already challenged, he spent a lot of his remarks talking about what he has been able to do so far just with the stroke of a pen, what he is hoping to get done singularly alone there from the White House through executive actions.
All right. And Jay, let me come back to you on, and you spoke about it, the narrow margins that Republicans have to work with in both houses of Congress, especially in the House of Representatives at this time, given how many nominees to Trump's cabinet were serving in the House, and that pressure that does put on Mike Johnson, Speaker Mike Johnson, to find a way to do these big things Trump is promising with that small majority.
Yeah, and largely with the help of Donald Trump and drawing out his base voters, Republicans have a pretty decent majority in the Senate. They have a 53-seat majority, so they have the votes there to get Donald Trump's legislative agenda through that chamber. But it's in the House where things get very tricky, and that's because, at least right now, Mike Johnson has a 218 to 215 House majority. Now, that's going to grow by a few seats once they have these special elections in states like Florida, where members have resigned in order to join Trump's cabinet. Matt Gaetz is a good example, but also Mike Waltz, who's now the national security advisor for Donald Trump. That majority, though, until those special elections happen, is actually going to shrink even more, because Elise Stefanik is on track to be confirmed as the next UN ambassador, so she's going to have to resign. So Mike Johnson, at least for the next few weeks and months, is going to be playing with a 217 to 215 House majority, just 2 seats. That is razor thin. That is tough legislative math if you are Mike Johnson. Johnson. So you can't afford to lose Republicans on your right flank who want to see deep spending cuts, who want to see certain spending policies enacted with offsets. They want to see significant changes to the federal government's apparatus. As John Katko said early on in the broadcast, some of them want to see cuts to entitlements, although GOP leadership has been clear they don't want to see cuts to entitlements like Social Security and Medicare. So it's up to Mike Johnson on how to make this sausage make everybody happy. He's going to be turning for Donald Trump, or turning to Donald Trump, for the legislative oomph to get that done. And what we don't know at this hour is how much air cover is Donald Trump going to give Mike Johnson as Johnson is making some of these hard decisions on Trump's legislative agenda.
Yeah, it's a hard enough job as is, but as you point out, Jay, keep nominating members of the House. You're shrinking that majority, at least for a time. So, Jay and Mary Alice, thanks very much. Well, U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement agents, ICE agents, are conducting operations across the country as a part of the Trump administration's efforts to find and deport people who are in this country illegally. ICE reported nearly 1,000 arrests yesterday alone. This comes as Texas Governor Greg Abbott, well, he's sending an additional 400 soldiers as well as multiple aircraft to the border to assist federal agents there. These National Guard troops is what he's doing. He's also begun his own deployment of 1,500 troops to the border. And thousands going overseas now, thousands of displaced Palestinians have been returning to northern Gaza, their homes there for the first time in more than a year of war. They've just devastated that place as the fragile ceasefire holds in the Middle East for now. Most of these people are unlikely to find their homes as they once remembered, with so much of the north of the Gaza Strip destroyed during this conflict. This comes after 2 days of delays for their return due to a dispute over hostages. Israel claimed Hamas changed the order of the hostages set to be released, and mediators eventually resolved this issue. So the terror group has released 7 hostages, including 4 female soldiers, over the weekend. As you see some of the homecomings there. ABC News foreign correspondent Britt Clennett has the latest. Britt?
Hey, Terry, extraordinary scenes in the Gaza Strip today after yet another snag in this deal was resolved. Hamas agreeing to an earlier than anticipated hostage release, meaning tens of thousands of Gazans have been allowed to cross what was an impassable line and go back to their homes. Today, thousands upon thousands of Gazans finally able to return to their homes. An endless column of those displaced from the north to the south. It was an incredibly tough time, this woman says, but now, thank God, it feels like we've been reborn. The night before, Israeli soldiers blocked the way. Now these families are able to pass through unimpeded, carrying their belongings, and sometimes each other, to what's left of their neighborhoods and homes. Some fleeing the fighting in the north left their loved ones behind, now reunited. 16-year-old Hamza Youssef will soon reunite with his family. It feels great. I'm going back to my people, my home, my neighbors, uncles and aunts. It feels good to be returning home. There is so much we want to do, he says. Palestinian officials say they need 135,000 tents in the north, with so many returning to destroyed homes. Each step of this precarious ceasefire deal has been tested to the limit, but the future of the Gaza Strip remains uncertain. President Trump this weekend said Palestinians could go to Egypt or Jordan.
I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. I mean, you're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing.
But they are tied to this land, desperate to go back to their homes, even if what remains is just rubble. Well, there have been so many enduring images that really capture the impact of this war, and we saw that again today. But there is so much uncertainty in this conflict. For now, the ceasefire is holding, and with so many heading back to the north of the Strip, the fear is what it could actually look like if the fighting were to restart. Terry?
All right, Britt, thank you very much for that. And today marks International Holocaust Remembrance Day, the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz death camp by Soviet troops. Political and religious leaders, as well as Auschwitz survivors, marked the anniversary during a ceremony at the former Nazi death camp in Poland. Survivors spoke of rising anti-Semitism today and remembered the lessons of the past. The event was attended by the Chancellor of Germany, by Britain's King Charles, as well as the presidents of Ukraine, France, and Poland. Israel sent its education minister, and today's ceremony is being treated as the last major observance that really any notable number of survivors will be able to attend. Back here in Washington, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth officially started work today at the Pentagon after his narrow confirmation in the Senate. Hegseth was sworn in over the weekend after Vice President J.D. Vance cast a tie-breaking vote to confirm him on Friday. It sets up another crucial week on Capitol Hill with 3 of President Trump's most high-profile nominees scheduled to face confirmation hearings, including his nominee to be Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to be Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and to be the FBI Director, Kash Patel. And breaking news, we've just learned that Treasury Secretary nominee Scott Bessent, has been confirmed by the Senate. The vote is 68 to 29. Olivia Rubin has more on the confirmation hearings from here in our D.C. bureau. Olivia?
It's going to be a very high-profile week, a critical week of hearings. Of course, it is Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK Jr. who will have their time to be questioned, and many of them, if not all of them, are expected to be grilled specifically by Democrat senators. Of course, when it comes to RFK, you can expect him to face questions about his stances on vaccines. Republicans could question about his stances on abortion, and I do think his views on food and healthy eating in this country will be something that will be praised at that hearing. Of course, when it comes to Kash Patel, the pick for FBI director, he's likely to be questioned about his fierce loyalty to Donald Trump, his comments that, top ranks at the FBI should be fired if they showed any sort of political bias. And of course, Tulsi Gabbard going to be facing questions about some of her meetings abroad. Think about her meeting with Assad. That has certainly raised some eyebrows there. All of this going to be under the microscope, really,